If we are striving to achieve sustainability in 15-minute cities, what does that imply? Are they sustainable? Do we all have to change the way we live, or we all will be sustained? See, I'm trying to tie in sustainable or sustained. I might have a chance if I don't dance with a waltzing Matilda built upon a four-step to a four-time beat that moved me to not care or to care too much if I have impressed my partner and those. Oh, that's when you called, Randy. Welcome, everybody. The mud flood was Armageddon. The mud flood was Armageddon. Don't let them tell you anything else unless they're willing to debate you in a fair and honest way. Well, so we do have an echo. You hear the echo, Randy?
I don't hear one at
Marcelo,
my
did it
end.
go away? Because I was hearing it and now I don't. I think all we had to do was recognize it. Hola. Hola. ¿Qué pasa? So anyway, let's go start with the pictures, RJ, so I'm not smoking on camera. Because this will give them an idea of what I got going. And plus, I know I didn't add one I want to about from Static in the Attic, because he has this thing about like circumcision and he's all like, oh, it's so bad. So this is from a band that's called Stained. I just added the will be purified by fire. But we, we have a hope deferred, just like they did back in the Old Testament. Do you know there was a Rome, New York? That's weird, huh?
Yeah, I think there's a couple Rome, Wisconsins.
I think there's a Paris, Texas. So they got it all figured out here. They can even tell you what this is. Oh, there goes the echo again. Now we're echoing. Some of them have numbers on them. So we looked at that guy. Okay, so I don't have anything that. Hey RJ, can you try to restart your thing so we can eliminate that as being the cause? I'm gonna mute you. And now let me see. I'm not hearing the echo, so I think you do need to restart, RJ. And then we'll so we don't have any pictures. That's interesting. So check out this. This is, something that this is the epitaph that is on. We're going back in history now, and I'm hoping I'm sharing. Are you coming back, RJ? Huh. Okay. So anyway, in memory of Captain Isaac Davis, who was slain in battle at Concord, April 19th. That's Hitler's birthday. In 1775, that was the start, the first battle of their independence so it was in his memory. Loving husband, died 30 years, 1 month, and 25 days. He gave his life for his country. And there's a quote there on Hola, RJ. Oh, I think we might still have it. I wonder if it's me. Nope, I don't hear it. Yay. All right. So we're looking at Captain Isaac Davis's grave here. Now it starts really weird. And it also, this can go back to this this beautiful woman's accent, I think, is just listen.
Who is this person here? We can't see a name, But this stone was erected in the 1840s, decades and decades after the end of the American Revolution.
Well, I'm not taking any chances here, RJ. I got to show my disclaimer because I'm going to be looking at a few different videos from other people. So
Good idea.
yeah. What'd you think of that accent? Well, we got here.
Well, she's from the East Coast or from some
Yeah,
other.
she lives in this town wherever they had the first battle, whatever it is she's into. She only talks about the American Revolution in
Yeah,
this
she's a native of that area. Again,
wherever they talk like this.
But it stands in the Revolutionary War section of Woodlawn Cemetery in Acton. And to make things even more mysterious, directly next to
Here
it
we go.
is this small stone that says Captain Isaac Davis.
Hey, that's who we were just studying.
But Isaac Davis isn't even buried in that cemetery.
Whoa. You know what my takeaway is from this, RJ? Just more
Yeah.
proof for the whole, not only our version of the one God, yay, family, but that whole thing of where, there's a whole community of people going like, look, they had to make up something for all of these big monuments. So they pulled a rabbit out of a hat. Here's Isaac Davis. He started the war. Here's a monument. Boom. We got a grave over here. Who cares? We buried him here. Problem solved. There's another monument with an explanation. Maybe?
Sure. Yeah.
Cemetery. He's buried here underneath this gigantic
Obelisk
monument in the middle of the town of Acton. Captain Isaac Davis is not buried here.
What?
And yet we have a stone with his name on it. And if you're a regular viewer of this channel, you know that Captain Isaac Davis was killed on April 19th, 1775, as he led.
I mean, every year I go into Hitler's birthday on April 19th. I don't like it. They burned Waco. They bombed the Alfred E. Murrah building. Everything. They're sick bastards.
The militia toward the North Bridge in Concord, Massachusetts.
So she must live really close to Concord.
Even city streets where events of the American Revolution happened. So if that sounds like fun to you, then I hope you'll consider buying a leave one. But so did another.
I guess she makes her living doing this.
Man in the company named Solomon Smith. Many decades later, 60 years later, actually,
Yeah. So the people, everything we know. Okay. Thank you, Katie. Everything we know about this guy. It's good for the United. Nobody from the other countries in the whole world are going to know it unless you speak American English. And then they'll tell you about this is the loose end. This is how they type the loose ends. You got an obelisk somewhere near Concord. This guy did it. Acton. That's where she's from. That's right by the grave marker, obelisk marker. He was a Minuteman, and we know about him because 60 years after, 4 or 5 survivors said, "Oh yeah, I remember he was calm and collected, and he didn't like the taxes, and he was just one of their helpers." The technology back in the day, right? 40 seconds if you're good, and a minute and a half if you're slow on reloading your rifle, and then they would just line up and shoot at each other. The redcoats are coming. So here's the bridge where they fought. How do we know? So we got that. What's up with these Jewish mobsters? How'd they get all their money? Well, according to the standard narrative,
makes millions. The brain has pulled off the biggest sporting fix in American history.
Arnold
But the White-
Rothstein.
Money.
Because the White Sox are clear favorites, the odds on their rivals are high. So Rothstein bets big on the Cincinnati Reds to win the World Series. He gambles every dime he's got and spreads the bets across the country so as not to raise suspicions. And it looks like his plan is working.
It worked. It worked, RJ. Now,
Nothing wrong with being lucky.
so to pull off a cover up like NASA, how many people would have to be involved to pull off a fix that's going to make you enough money to fund the mafias in the United States and take over everything? He had to supposedly, hawk his house and everything, spread out the bets across every known gambling place, because gambling must have been really big and every town had it. So he bet in every town. They won. So he had to fix the teams. You're going to play good. You're going to play bad. And I think a lot of people had to, he did that by himself, I guess. And then like 10 years ago, Tim O'Donoghue or something like that, the head referee was indicted for fixing basketball games. But he took the fall and said he did it all by himself, that none of those games were really fixed. So what's changed? Something changed around that time. We know 1915, Margaret Sanger opens Planned Parenthood, calls for abortion, whereas in 1914 she was arrested for talking about birth control. Something changed. The narrative changed. We're tying up the loose ends, and we're going through these things kind of in order. Welcome, Sergio. So good to see you.
Yeah, and then WW1 was
right. And was that all a cover up? Now, remember, my idea on this, and I hope a lot of people might consider it, is they really sent people over there, bombed them from a distance, and when they got there to rebuild, and clean up, it was rubble. We think, like the fire myths and things like that they were already there destroyed from Armageddon. And it just is like in World War II. They bombed
the creation of the money cartel was the previous year.
Yep,
there
right.
was a lot of.
And they were already fighting in Japan and China, the big four. Well, we always think about Russia, Stalin, Churchill, and FDR, but the big four, where was Chiang Kai-shek? Well, he got replaced by Mao Zedong in a backstab by the FBI over the CIA, and they're still mad about it. It's things like that make the world go round. So we had a little Black Sox scandal, a little bit more of that.
Pay good money to put pressure on their workers not to strike. Rothstein connects with Louis Lepke Buchalter, a violent gangster breaking heads for the factory bosses.
One of the most talented people that Arnold Rothstein turned to in labor racketeering was Louis Lepke Buchalter. A truly vicious Lower East Side kind of guy. And he...
Yeah. Okay. Well, I want to talk about this is going to be a spur of the moment thing. Is that how you spell Normandy? That's not the one I wanted. I think, what was the liner that got blown up in I think that's it. Yeah, so here's this oh, they got it spelled.
Here's a
spelled Normandy
photograph of
different.
one of the world's most luxurious ships, burnt, flipped over, and temporarily abandoned in New York Harbor. Before this unfortunate incident, this was the ultimate ship, a title that has applied to many vessels before her. And perhaps in line with tradition, none of them have maintained the title for long. Such was the case with the SS Normandy, a French transatlantic ocean liner, state-of-the-art for the 1930s, dubbed the Ship of Light. However, the Ship of Light was snuffed out in the flames of World War II at the hands of one of France's allies. So stay tuned to find out why, as today we discover the rise and fall of SS Normandy. I'm your host, Ryan Socash, and you're watching It's History.
Wow, look how big it is compared to the Statue of Liberty.
In the 1920s, the United States put restrictions on immigration into the nation, which was a major change as there had always been a steady stream of immigrants arriving in America from Europe. The travel industry that had developed in the Old World had shifted into a new phase. Instead of immigration from Europe, the focus became tourism to and from the United States. The desire to leave America and visit other countries
Right,
was
I left that highlighted on February 9th, 1942. That's not very far from December 7th, 1941, is it, RJ?
No, yeah,
We call that about a month and a half or 2 months at the,
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, hello, yeah, correct.
And so they already sabotaged in New York City and made a show of who runs the harbors. You're at war. Who's going to load your ships? Who controls the harbors, really? They blew up the Normandy. It had just been stolen from another government, but is being reconfigured to be a troop transport because we're at war, RJ. Those sneaky Japanese were going to take over the world like Hitler. And in 2 months, you know what happened after this, RJ? Lucky Luciano got let out of prison because he promised, if you let me out of prison and forgive me, we'll help you. And this won't happen again.
Coordinate the labor issue.
Yeah, it smoothed it right over. As a matter of fact, Italy dropped out of the war. Those mafias came to our side and helped us to attack Italy in 1943. So that would have been 9 months later, 10 months later. Here you go. We'll help you guide your tanks over the mountains of Sicily, because nobody wants your ships blown up. The dining room, what is this? That's not the Normandy. That can't be a stone. Oh, it must have a picture of the boat. I don't know. Big boat. That's all I wanted to show.
particularly strong for many upper-class tourists due to prohibition, the ban on alcohol that lasted into the 1930s. Several companies stepped up to meet the demand with their supply, and the ships built to do the job were called ocean liners, as opposed to the modern-day cruise ships. Unlike today's cruise liners, which are dedicated solely to transportation, ocean liners were multi-purpose, intended for the transportation.
Now, from what I've seen about your modern cruise ships, this is not a modern cruise ship. This is all about your comfort, not they're making money. So what happened anyway?
Water inlets, Worse still, a strong wind blew through, fanning the flames and spreading them even further forward, consuming the top 3 decks in an hour. As firefighters began going to work, the ship
That sounds like the way the mob does it. You know, we want this to burn. Well, then use a lot of gas.
began to list to port or tilt to its left side as the fire hoses pumped onto its starboard side. The ship's designer, Vladimir Yorkovich, was present but barred entry to the site by the harbor police.
They probably did that on purpose. And look at here, big man. What do you think you're shit now? Now tell them.
The 10th, 1942, she fully capsized, nearly crushing a fireboat in the process. One man died in the disaster, a member of the Fire Watch named Frank Trentacosta. The press was barred from viewing the disaster, as sabotage was suspected, but it was ultimately deemed an accidental fire by mismanagement. The salvage operation was one of the largest and most expensive in history, valued at $94 million in today's money, and could likely be...
Somehow, if they want to get your attention, I think they hit you in the pocketbook. I really do. I really do. Because then it's like, oh no.
Yeah, it would probably be effective that way.
Yeah, because in the back, there's a wife, and she's expecting to maintain a standard of living. What's this? I am having such a hard time.
So it didn't fall into the lap of some sort of insurance company. Either they were self-insured but even, I don't know.
I do know that you know a lot more about insurance than I do. Look at that. You see, now there is no way I'm rocking these 5 bars on this thing. And did you see how slow my typer was working? And it missed a bunch of letters. So anyway, I really, I don't want to get into the mob of Meyer Lansky because he's like 15 shows. And these guys, don't they get enough grief? I mean, this whole genocide in Gaza stuff, don't these guys get enough grief? I don't need to pile on. I feel like that would be easy pickings. So anyway, we're going to roll it back down there. Hey, he rolled with Arnie. Remember the guy that fixed the whole World Series? There he goes, man. So anyway, he's rolling in a whole life of crimes. He gets arrested. Because he was kidnapping women and making them be prostitutes. And that kind of like crossed the line for some of the other mafia people. And he was going like, like in the other mobs, we were going like, some of these guys want to sell heroin. Well, that was Meyer Lansky and Lucky Luciano. That was these guys. And everybody going like, they're too big. So they called it prosecution for pandering, but that's sugarcoating it. He had they raided 200 of his brothels. I don't know how many he really had, but it was a lot. So anyway, he goes like, oh shit, I'm gonna get arrested. I got to get out of here. So he ends up in jail, man. He's in jail. They put the head guy in jail and they sunk that ship that I told you about. And so they had this Havana conference, Frank Sinatra there, everybody's there going like, maybe we should listen to the Jewish mafia and get this guy out of jail because they just blew up this $40 million ship that I was in love with. And so they get a hold of the Gambinos, the Geonovazis, and they go, is it cool if we let Lucky Luciano out of jail and make him the head of all the mafias, and you guys, it's all going to be cool? Yeah, it's going to be cool. So where's that? What do they call that? What was that operation called where they let him go and they set him free, and then
Operation Godfather? Yeah.
Somebody help me. Somebody help me. I used to be able to stumble right on it, and it would be like and it was Operation.
Connect
I'd
with
have to
that.
go back to the 1990s and do that. What is that? Control F. It's Operation Underworld. You were so close, RJ. So Operation Underworld is when they let Lucky Luciano out because there were suspicions that the mafia did this. You know, suspicions
They
that
were kind of forced into
he did it. It was this guy who got let out of prison he was the head of Murder Inc., 200 brothels, worked, took over Arnold Rothstein, man. This was the bitch of the mafia. And they go like, yeah, you're out, dude. Come on. You can be free now. Where's the part where they let him go? For his cooperation, Luciano was moved to a more convenient and comfortable open prison. And so, let's see. December 7th, 1941, January, February, March, April, things already getting easier for Lucky. All right. And so he follows through. They win the war. And in 1946, Lucky gets out of his white collar prison and is deported to Italy and promptly moves to a van and starts selling heroin, RJ. That shit. Oh man. It's like it's all
old
like,
business.
hey, they run the world, We don't like to admit it, and people go like, well, that means should I vote for Trump or not? In their mind, that's the first thing they go to. It's like, does that mean my vote? Your vote does not count. They've been fixed forever. It's all a fix. Now things get weird.
Still does not count.
I apologize for, here we got how Jewish gangsters fought the Nazis and shit. Now what? This is new. This is weird. Right? Kind of. First Friday devotions. Did you ever hear of it? I never did. Here's one. Huh. What's this got to do with First Fridays? This is a First Friday, RJ.
Yeah, for July. Yeah, this month.
Yeah.
Assuming, your calendar is synchronized to the one everyone else is using.
Those kinky Mardi Gras parades, they're all based on Roman Catholic holidays like this First Friday stuff. Yeah. I guess number 12
well,
is
other than Fat Tuesday, just before Ash.
That's only once a year, man. This is a monthly thing. So this is all about for Mary, the ISIS. The numbers 12 might interest some people, where Mary, as I promise you, in the excessive mercy of her heart, that through her all-powerful love, she will grant to all those who shall receive communion on the first Friday in 9 consecutive months, the grace of final penance. If you do that, it's like going, for the once saved, always saved, Billy Grammer's, you said it once, you're saved for life. This is a 9-month thing, whatever.
Is that a gestation? Is that
my district? Huh?
For gestation, for whatever.
Oh, maybe.
I don't know. Is that a coincidence, or is it, I don't know. I'm just pitching that out.
There's no coincidences is what the mafia said. That's what Don Vito said. My son, Michael, because Sonny got killed. He goes, Sonny's dead. Now, Michael is alive. And if anything should, if he should be poisoned, if a bullet should stray and find him, if lightning strikes him dead, I will consider it murder. You know, it's one of those type of things, you know.
Yeah.
They're laying it out. But this is, I wanted to emphasize that this is Mary talking about herself, you know, her divine heart. This is not Jesus. It's all about Mary. Now, First Friday's in town. First Friday public events. Is the name of various public events. It has become the new deal. It's better than Third Thursdays or anything, but it's a block party where people can see and be seen. You know, and they forget the way you know, Republican Democrats do it. First Fridays are usually art and entertainment destinations where you can get some pub crawling in. Maybe somebody's going to twirl fire, syncopate some jazz, show a little skin, get a little street musicians. It's also recognized nationally as a black target. Started in 1987. Art galleries. Here, a lot of towns do it. Everybody does it. Alamosa does it. Small town here. So it's part of the social networking thing. First Fridays, Tucson. Okay. And this is also, you know, well, let's just see what I got. First Fridays. Wasn't there the one thing that, so First Fridays, there was something else. Let's try this. I wonder if my typer works. Look at that. When you just type in First Fry, you can tell these are not things that, you know, I search. It says First Friday fetish meaning. Huh. This talking about married devotions. That's weird. Wonder how the second page has got a little more fetish thing going on here with fetish definition. Femboy. So let's try First Friday. Now this is a word I learned in Colorado Springs. What is that? PG-13 warning here. Ramped First Friday surprising success. So now there is something called FetLife, and that's where people like the Podestas of the world, the Abramoviches, Marina Abramovich, it's where people go out to meet their, you know, other people that don't believe in Jesus and be like, they did, from what I understand, it's to see and be seen. And I'm just saying that there's a whole website that is dedicated to those people. And they're striving to change our cities and do everything else because they don't believe in God. And they don't know what to believe. So we got to move on from that, RJ. I've got a verse pulled up here, Leviticus 3:17. It is a permanent statute throughout your generations in all your dwelling places. You shall not eat any fat or any blood. And we looked at that last night. Instead, you know, well, now the Gentiles, this was for the Jews. The Gentiles, they didn't have that. but they did have, not the blood. So don't tell me that, oh, the Bible says you can't eat a hamburger that has any fat in it. I got a good idea. Shut up. Just shut up. Didn't spend long on that one, did I? What was this all about?
Hey, fellas, how are y'all?
Good, Travis.
Good.
Well, Tim,
Yeah.
here we are again.
Here we are.
Yeah, well, this time we want to put that energy again into the space with your laser space. Are you ready to make it bright again?
I am. Let's do it. And we're going to go at dark.
Scary
There
music.
he is. Yes.
What do we got going here, RJ?
They're going to do the laser cannon.
They're going to do a laser cannon, and they're going to fire a missile at something, right? They're just
Well,
talking.
yeah, at the obstruction that the laser cannon.
Oh, I got to watch it on YouTube. I was trying to speed it up, everyone. I am sorry,
Yeah,
but at
when
least
the
now
laser
you know
guy's
what I
ready
do.
to
Okay.
click.
I should probably get back over to the command center and make sure everything's trained on this
Well, I wanted
area.
to
Eric, I've got a
sound and pause it. Go ahead, explain what's the setup here. They're going to shoot a rocket at a laser, and there's something obstructing it.
Well, yeah, if you click along, you might want to click ahead a minute or two or three. You'll find.
guys. We
And
are
then
here.
their cameras don't work.
Oh, look.
Just check this out. No, you'll.
I'm seeing
Couple-
stars. So we're hitting something.
So they got a clear night.
But their
But the
laser
laser
can't
is
penetrate. Yeah,
Okay.
and
I'm
then there'll
seeing
be a
3 balls and an X at the top. So this is honestly, they've stretched this out over 5 years. After watching a couple of episodes of this since you sent this to me, I'm sure they knew this was going to happen, but
Well,
they
yeah.
stretched it out over 5 years as a way to break it to me explaining it to people who've never seen or heard of this show and saying this is as fake as the way they explained the gravestone for Isaac Davies. Oops, I meant to hit the sound and it was going to be so dramatic.
Okay, copy. I'm going to dive in on that.
That is weird, man.
No, his camera won't work.
What the heck? My camera just went out. What the hell? Whoa, my camera.
So, something's up to.
This camera is just not adjusted to capture the rocket launch. Thank you.
Hey, Thomas, do you copy?
Yeah, Travis, I'm up here on the mesa looking down
Let's
on you
shoot
guys.
the rocket.
See anything weird
But
up
the
there?
rocket goes the other direction.
Anything unusual up here?
Copy that. Be advised, we're about to launch a rocket.
Shoot it.
Copy that. We'll stay put until that rocket lands.
Everybody clear the area.
T-minus 5 seconds.
Here we go.
What's he holding?
5, 4,
He's spinning
3,
on the top.
2, 1.
Yeah.
Did you see that thing take off and turn as far away from that laser beam as it could get? Okay, here we go.
What's this thing spinning here, RJ?
Rocket lands.
I think it
Right
was
here. It's blue on
Clear
top
the
of
area. Clear the
It was
area.
like
want
some
one.
sort of
Here we go.
cheap fireworks or something.
4, 3, 2, 1.
You know,
That's
it's
what you
gonna hit
wanted
the
to
other.
see, right? Is that where you wanted it? Because
Well, it's supposed to hit the obstruction
you
at the
can-
top of the.
it's
cannon,
like tracking those hurricanes. You can see where it was going, and it just
Yeah.
decided to take a left.
S curved, away.
Did you see that thing take off and turn as far away from that laser beam as it could get? Why didn't it go straight? Good question. We had that launch rail pretty much straight up. There's no wind. That thing took off and it avoided that laser beam like the plague is what it looked like.
I think they're like those lawyers, where they don't going to run these experiments unless they know what's going to happen and they can do their best to act surprised.
Already crazy enough.
Just after our rocket seemed to veer away from the triangle, the invisible obstruction that was blocking Newsalt's laser suddenly looked like it was splitting the beam in two. What was up there? And was it now morphing into something else?
I don't know about that.
Let's bring the lasers down.
I thought I saw 3. Now here,
Tonight definitely didn't
here's
go
the
as we
part,
planned.
RJ,
Okay.
that they think nobody has seen this before. I've literally seen it from the outside looking into it.
We're looking at
The whole thing. This is actually
this
just
looks-
one of 3 parts of this.
an anomaly out in the East Fields.
What in the actual crap? That is insane.
What would account for the sharp?
You can ask Luther and these people that have been around. I tried to explain this, of how you can look into the center of all 3 of these moving.
Lines coming down.
I don't know what it is, but there had to be something there for the LiDAR
I
to
can't
detect
explain it with the words.
Whatever is there is,
Yeah.
is as if it's invisible.
I'm seeing the swirl marks.
Yeah, look at this. What? Look at this smear all around us like we're inside a cone of something. Can you look up? It does go into a cone.
That.
It is a cone.
Wow.
I mean, that is insane. You're inside.
You're insane. He doesn't even know what sanity is.
Insane
Anyway.
in the brain.
Insane in the membrane. That's like a rock and roll song, Randy. I know you never heard it.
High energy costs. Maintaining the precise environmental conditions needed for year-round production requires a significant amount of electricity for lighting, climate control, ventilation, and other systems. This, coupled with the high labor costs and excessive, money spent towards the building and the automation stuff, made it really hard for these companies to become profitable. AppHarvest, a prominent vertical farming company, spent over $100 million building a massive 2.76 million square foot facility in Kentucky. However, after years of operation, they struggled to turn a profit and was forced to lay off a significant portion of their workforce. Similarly, Fifth Season, another well-funded vertical farming company, recently announced that it was shutting down its operations, citing the inability to become financially viable. The data paints a stark picture. The average vertical farm spends about 55% of its operating costs on energy, 25% on labor, and only 20% on other expenses. Additionally, the sale of leafy greens, which make up the majority of production of...
That energy, if it wasn't run by oil and all that bullshit, wouldn't be a problem, right? But in the meantime, what about that? What I started off with, there was only a couple of people here then. I started off saying that if we are striving to achieve sustainability in 15-minute cities, what does that imply? We don't have a chance in the city, right?
Well, yeah,
They're unsustainable. If they're trying to make them sustainable, they are unsustainable. I did this with hydroponics and talked about it. We fed Tapia. Tapia pooped. It went in the water, and we used it for the hydroponics, and we didn't use any other fertilizer. And it was a failed. I was actually brought in to close it down because of my warehousing experience. I had yet to have been led to go and abate asbestos so that I could go to NORAD, which was like a freaking year and a half. If everybody wonders, where was Alan from 2012 to 2014? You try to get on NORAD. Try to come up with some way to get on NORAD. It's not as easy as it
To start,
sounds.
vertical farming companies must continuously innovate and adapt their technologies to increase crop yield, efficiency, and most of all, reduce those energy costs. These may include, examples like optimizing new lighting systems, talking about better ways of maintaining the climate, and ultimately building facilities that are energy efficient, like indoor greenhouses that can sustain year-round production in the cold, harsh climates of things like Canada. Next, collaboration is key because it's no single entity.
We got it all figured out. You know why he's summing up right now? I don't know if I can hit the right spot, but it's all like, you can spend all this money, but do people, right now really want to pay twice as much for a head of lettuce because it was grown on a vertical farm? Might be good for an emergency. It might be good if you're going to shove this down somebody's throat on an attempted thing. That thing being lasting until 2038 when their computers will shut down.
Farming technologies could be an absolute game changer. But in order to realize these potentials, we must learn from the mistakes of the past and embrace a more sustainable, profitable, and scalable approach to this technology.
Dude, it's not going to work. Hey, what is it? I mean, sustainable, unsustainable. What do we know about a stain? There's a coffee stain. Been there, done that.
I mean, sort of like our debt, that it's unsustainable, like that.
Exactly like that, RJ. That's why you're the man. So, because it makes you permanently unclean. That's coming up. So yeah, way to jump right on it, man. I don't know if I had any more on this or not. That was it. Okay. So some stains are biodegradable. I'm going to just mention biodegradation, which is the breakdown of organic matter by what? Your little friends? How good terms are you on with the things that live in your body that have pneuma? These yummy looking, but don't take too many of these if they're the Panthera. If they're Amanita muscaria panthera. Well, I did get to see the amphiphugal lymphocanosis and what I just showed in that video, but I can't endorse these because they claim they'll kill you. All I know is I didn't die. Tommy thought I was going to die. So did his wife. But I was 6 hours later, I told, 2 psychologists and a psychiatrist, yeah, this was just one of my experiments gone wrong, and explained it to them, and they let me go. And the rest is continuing history. So, biodegradability, you guys get it, right? Okay. That's cleanliness. What's the ethics of cleanliness and ethical judgments? What are we even talking about there? Because is that what cleanliness is to most people, RJ? I thought it was just like the state of being free from germs, dirt, trash, weight, have something to do with germ theory. Go ahead, RJ. You probably are.
Well, in the physical
where am I
sense,
going with this, RJ? Where am I going?
I think you're going with the physical sense. And then you'd have, spiritual
Implications.
Cleanliness.
What's the difference between looking at life that way to where it's like, well, I have a feeling of guilt. Okay, as opposed to going, Paco, I have a feeling of guilt. What'd you do? That's what I'd say. What'd you do? You are guilty. You're guilty of something, buddy. What'd you do? I'm not going to go like, well, just forgive yourself. What the hell are you talking about? What's the limit on being able to forgive yourself, RJ? What if I go murder somebody? Can I? Well, I forgive myself. Or am I still stained? Am I still contaminated? What are we going to do about that stain? Because it was kind of harsh, and I don't feel like came off that good. But it really is that we're really guilty. It's not a feeling. I gotta just take a breath. Go ahead. We already saw that. Okay. The concept of cleanliness emphasizes an ongoing procedure or set habits for the purpose of maintenance and prevention. All right. Washing, soap, cultural imperialism. Does it depend on social class of what, feeling moral superiority by simply being clean or more presentable in public? Because I did want to talk about what is that circumcision of the heart? What does that mean? What did Christ mean when he said, what the, quit trying to clean the outside as much as I try to emphasize people's microbiome to be on good terms with the living things in your body, give them a little consideration every now and then. What is all this about integrated circuits and stuff? Oh, you got to have a clean room for that stuff. Oh, here they have a thing about, because somehow it seems like at one point in the world, there were places where men, and I don't know what women did, but men would go to sweat, stretch, and eat organic to cleanse their body, because if they didn't, they couldn't vote, because people knew they didn't give a shit. If they didn't care enough to take care of their body, to purge it from its impurity so that they could be thinking on a higher level, you didn't get the vote. That's why they had these in. That's why they're found. Shoot, you can't break open a basement from Paris to Moscow without running into one of these things, right? And it wasn't only the Christians, that had rules about every one of these things. They only had different gods in charge of saying, I'm going to do what I said. Thank God the Most High incarnated in the flesh and chose the worst, made King David the best, and our Messiah's promised descendant was right there, ready and waiting for those who are going to walk a narrow road. Okay, well, I was kind of counting on you taking over here, so go ahead. Anything here look good to you? Where's that whole thing where they show the outline?
Well, you had me thinking there. The circumcision of the heart thing is, I believe, the separating from, the worldly thinking, to the spiritual, giving glory to, the Creator and everything that He's provided, all our blessings, gifts, that's the source. And then acknowledging, recognizing the truth of that, and then showing the appreciation, not just to God, but to the fellow human, humanity, compassion.
It really does come down to the whole, what am I trying to say? Your heart, your intentions, anyway. So here,
well, and the thing is, it's difficult to be, truly, not that you can, be brainwashed and still be sincere, but as far as from God's perspective, if you can't even recognize what He created, and what's truly going on in this world, unless you're living in some sort of a Disney World production, which it could be totally,
that is so. I
down.
did that. It is so much fun. You just go to theme park, and honestly, it was, if there wasn't this whole judgment thing, that's the way to do it. It's good. So anyway, Jesus' account is extremely short in the book of Luke. Now, we don't care about the apocryphal because who cares? And when the time, if his circumcision would come, I'm betting that was the 8th day. They took him to be circumcised because everybody did it.
And that's when they did it, yeah.
And in our reset world, the Catholics did it to every white person. You can't go in a hospital without, the majority of people have been circumcised. And it started, for no other reason. I'll look at everybody in the eye and tell them the truth. It started for no other reason than to remove 3,200 pleasurable nerve endings from the end of a male's penis in an attempt by Egypt and the other countries. All the gods of that time did it because men's mind were too much on sex. And the idea was if you diminish it, they could get more work done. It's not like they wouldn't have sex and reproduce, but that's why circumcision was put into place. Now, the Gentiles do not have that because those days are over. Now we know we can circumcise our heart. I think that's a summary, RJ. That's just a summary.
Yeah.
Of course, there's so much more. But go ahead.
Yeah. And now, yeah, you have baptism, probably.
Right. But circumcision, something that is no longer necessary, is still the world's most common thing. And again, right after the 1848 bullshit, all of a sudden, it's like, oh, that's when the Irish Catholics came to America because of a planned drought. And then the next thing you know, they're persecuted. And we've all seen the pictures of Irish are like black people. They're not Darwin's choice. And yet, everybody in the United States is circumcised and going under their laws now. It's basically, this is a Roman Catholic country BS. And it's, that they're the guys, well, who brought in Darwinism? Rome. Who been in all this other shit? Rome. We got a Rome world.
Brought in Big Bang. Rome.
Big Bang. Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. The Jesuits.
And who knows? Have a telescope, the bigger you'd want to name it Lucifer, right?
What does this mean?
Is it a target?
I don't know. Oh my goodness, they're showing penises on this. My goodness. So, do we want to look up any of the circumcision of the heart verses?
Well, I mean, you're coming on to 60 minutes here in a minute.
Okay, I want to cover this one other thing here. So, I have these scriptures pulled up, and we can just come to this. Well, Hosea 13:13, 2 Kings 19:3, and Isaiah 37:3 have come to birth at the opening of the womb. The place of the breaking forth of children is how the King James put it here. Not a very common word here. Now, the actual verse would read in this Berean standard, labor pains come upon him, but he is an unwise son. When the time arrives, he fails to present himself at the opening of the womb. This one stands out because it's so much different than all of the other ones. The New King James, the sorrows of a woman in childbirth shall come upon him. He is an unwise son, for he should not stay long where the children are born. The New American Standard, I think it, just people can read these on their own, compare. The pains of childbirth come upon him. He is not wise, for it is not time that he should delay at the opening of the womb, at the breaking forth. It's a complicated verse, but the Bible's full of complicated things. And as we are going to be here, and we're going to go over things. And no, there's no challenge that I'm not ready for. Has anybody ever heard? I'm going to ask in the comments and give them a couple minutes. 2 Kings 20 and Isaiah 38. What do they have in common? Can anybody in the comments tell us what they have in common? So somebody's responded within the last minute. I know there are some people in there. I kind of gave you a hint. Can you think of a hint?
I mean, for similarities?
Yeah, the similarities between.
Mean that they're the same?
Exactly the same. Word for word. Something that just rarely and never happens in the Bible.
But it does there.
It does. It does. And it's the rare thing that, after they wear you out about all of the other nonsense and it's just like, well, yeah, I believe it. God's good. He's love, and you just defeat everything. It's like, no, I'm going to stick with it's flat, and not going to go with the globe, and everything else. And like, well, he didn't come back. Oh, yes, he did, Well, finally, the Bible's full of contradictions. Well, we solved that. Well, it's full of errors. What's the last one they always pull? 2 Kings, Hosea, and Isaiah 38. So, no, we look at that. We want to see 2 Kings 20. In those days, Hezekiah became sick and was at the point of death. What shall be a sign that the Lord will heal them? Verse 8 starts. Wait, behold, I shall make a cat. Oh, so is it 37 here? Which one is it? Where am I at? Behold, I will make the shadow go back. Now, I thought that 2 Kings brought that verse 8 is different. So, I will make the shadow go forward 10 steps. One of these is exactly the same, and one of them is not. But anyway, shoot, I haven't studied this for like 15 years. But we got two chapters that are just doggone. Let's see, what's the verse 20 of Isaiah? That's stringed instruments. Now, I thought I had this down on which one was the two that are complete copies of each other. And I think I made a mistake on it. Not my first mistake. But it does have, it's about when he got sick. And then, they're going to go, there's 10 steps. This one was, I think, 8 steps. Who cares? So it would be 38. Was it verse 8 that said that?
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay, it said 10 steps too. So anyway, RJ, talk about a crazy way to not prove that. Anyway, there are 2 chapters that completely repeat each other.
well, 37 and 19 are awfully close. You know, 2 Kings 19, Isaiah 37, but that it just
Let's see. As soon, yeah, you know what? I think I had them messed up. As soon as Hezekiah heard about it, I
mean,
was
them
so
two are,
I think I got distracted by showing you that talking drum and that.
but I think 19 and
Yeah.
2
Thanks,
Kings
man.
19,
Yeah.
Isaiah 37 are dangerous.
So let's look at. We'll start at their 2 Kings 19:35, and that night the angel of the Lord went struck 185,000. And then the people rose early, behold, they were dead bodies. Verse 38. And as he was worshiping in the house of Nisroch, his god, bad choice. Of course, he didn't make that choice. That choice made him. Adremelech and Sharezer, his son, struck him down. You dirty dogs. You dirty dogs. Patricide and Esdras reigned in his place. So they are close. Let's see what 32 says. Therefore, thus the Lord said concerning. Therefore, said the Lord. Yeah. So this, I think, is probably closer to the one I wanted to go through. 28. I know you're sitting down. But again, it also is one of the most important parts, of the Bible too, because this was the whole, haven't I defeated every other king in the world and all of your other cities, and now Judah is the last one standing, and and they were obedient. He railed on them and told them they were going to kick their butt, but they didn't answer back because the king said, don't answer back. And Isaiah did come and help them. So I had finally pulled up that, there are points in the Bible where the name Jehovah is emphasized. There are points in the Bible where the name Elohim is emphasized, because our Bible, our one book with an old covenant and a new covenant, is the book of remembrance. Now, things went bad, and they told us that at the very end, they knew that the vine was going to not bear fruit. There was a coming judgment. Jesus was coming not to give them a second chance. He had the winnowing fork in his hand. And then there were very few people. How few? Then those who feared the Lord were all spoke to one another and said, we're on a narrow road that nobody in this world believes us. We've got to gather this up, this truth, condense it into a digestible form, and the rest is history. The Lord paid attention to those few and heard them. And our book with 2 covenants was written before God, him, by those who feared the Lord and did the right thing, protected his reputation. That's what it means, esteemed his name, because his name is beyond us. We can understand him as the God above all gods, the only creator. Some in the other camp say, well, maybe there's a prime mover, but that watchmaker quit this job long ago. And as the Lord Jesus showed us the model to circumcise our hearts and realize, if I had more time, I would go to Static in the Attic's video today where he's making fun of Moses and his wife and God, because he said God was going to kill Moses if he didn't get circumcised his children. It's a bloody thing, and he's acting like it's all the worst thing in the world. And it is not, ladies and gentlemen. Everything in the Bible leads you to the truth that we are going to be purified by fire, each and every one of us. And some of us live for a deferred hope. And the only way to do it, because no one is required to circumcise their penis anymore, but only their hearts. Any final words, RJ?
Oh, yeah, this isn't our home. So, yeah, it'll be, yeah, you won't feel comfortable until you get there.
Right. We like children, I have permission to say, are we there yet? Only so many times, because the Father is going to gently remind us, you'll know when you get there. Oh, you'll know when you're there, because this isn't it. So quit asking. You'll know when you get there.
Yep.
This is a flat earth nation, because the golden age is past. Why? Mudflood was Armageddon. Don't let them tell you anything else. Me and my friends never will. Why? Because we have your best interest at heart. Amen. Hallelujah. Aho. Aloha. Arrivederci. Ciao. Sayonara. Auf Wiedersehen. Goodbye, Nagaman, and adios, amigos. Hasta